Hey sightseers, Sightseeing Sally here. Marty's with me. He's in the background somewhere, like usual. There he is. See, I knew he was around somewhere. We are in southern Illinois and we happened to stumble upon a little historic town known as Cave in Rock. Settled in 1816 and later incorporated in 1901, the village of Cave in Rock was originally known as Rock and Cave. In October of 1849, the town officially changed its name with the post office to Cave in Rock. Best known for the cave after which the town gets its name, by some accounts this place was once home to such notorious outlaws as the Hart brothers, river pirates like Samuel Mason, and the infamous counterfeiting band of thieves known as the Sordid gang before becoming the charming little town it is today. We don't really have a set plan here. We're just going to walk around the town, check it out, and see what historic buildings are here. I believe there's a historical marker of significance somewhere. And if you didn't know, there's a legend and some interesting history that goes along with that legend. So we'll be going into that along the way. If you look just beyond where Marty's standing is Cave in Rock Tourist Welcome Center and the Village Hall. Now something I noticed that's really interesting about the Village Hall is that the door is unlocked. Now normally that wouldn't be such a fascinating feature, except when I went inside, there's nobody in here. It's as if you're the only one. I guess the reason I point that out is because we're in a town where apparently everybody is trusted and you can just walk into places like that and not have it manned, which isn't something I'm used to, at least not these days. Anyways, while I was busy fascinating over that, Marty was looking at something over here. What is it, Marty?
A tornado or air raid siren, most likely made by Federal.
Do you have a fascination with those things or what?
I want to mount one in the house.
And for what purpose?
Drive you and the dogs crazy.
You already do that. Without one. I think I heard him say dogs as in dogs plural. Does that mean he's going to let me get another dog? Anyways, he's over here now checking out this building. What do you make of that, Marty?
Look at all the crystals, they look like maybe broken glass, but they look like some of them are crystals. You know, they're not like, they're multicolored. Weird.
Well, if I recall correctly, we are in an area where they mine fluorospar. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I know some of you will be able to correct me in the comments section below. But anyways, getting back to Marty and his observation.
Now after walking around and looking at the front of the building, it makes sense now. Look at crystals, cut rocks, more crystals. They're all over in here.
Yeah, if you look, you can see all them crystals embedded into the side of the building. I wonder what this building used to be. It'd be interesting to find that out. I do know that up above it says United something. It's just you can't really read it, and I'm not sure if that's even the name of what this used to be. Somebody put a lot of time and effort into making this, though. I mean, some of these are cut and polished. It's pretty fascinating to look at it up close. And if you look down, you can see they even did the sidewalk in front of the entry. Even Mocha finds it interesting. Look at her. She's checking it out. I don't know. Maybe they sold crystals and minerals there. Who knows?
Actually, down the road here at an old gas station, they sell rocks, or they call minerals.
We might have to go check that out.
You might have to.
Then across the street from the building with all the crystals is this place. Cave in Rock's Lodge number 444. It has a really interesting insignia. I'm wondering if that's something related to the Freemasons, because it looks familiar, but I can't quite place it. And then if we look down here, we can see who originally built the building. Looks like it says G.L. Mesker and Company, Evansville, Indiana. Now here's something you don't see every day. A guy pulling up to the bank to get his money on his lawnmower. The other thing I'm quickly noticing about the community is that they must be strongly religious down here, because not only am I seeing signs around the town, when I went into the village hall, I noticed that they had a number of religious type pamphlets mixed in with the tourist information. One of the other things I noticed is something I've seen elsewhere. This painted bicycle. If you recall, when I did a video on Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, they had painted bicycles like that all over their downtown. Looks like Mayor Jackie signed their name in 2003. Now here's some interesting history that I discovered about this area. This was a spot where Lewis and Clark came and explored. According to the sign, Meriwether Lewis, William Clark, and about 20 men passed this place in the fall of 1803 on their famous journey westward. Cave and Rock, a natural landmark near here, was well known and noted on some of the early maps of this area. The party continued on to Fort Massac. Or is it Fort Massac? I don't know. You tell me in the comment section below. But I don't think Lewis and Clark were dressed quite like this. Why am I suddenly reminded of a song by Carly Simon? There's the bank where the guy on the lawnmower was getting his money out through the drive-up.
This looks like an old church here. You can see the windows in the top, double doors in the front. At one time it must have been half its size if you look at the basement, or the bottom half. Field stone towards the back, and then newer cement block towards the front.
If you look over here, you can see the windows that have been boarded up. They're long, and then they're rounded at top, because that seems pretty typical of the old churches that we've seen, at least up in our area. Not to mention, it looks like a really old building, so I'm guessing it's probably one of the original churches here in town. And kitty-corner from that, you can see what's probably its replacement. Now, just up the hill behind what we believe to be the old church is this building. Isn't that impressive? Marty called it the mayor's mansion. I don't know if that's what it really was. I'll have to look online and see if I can dig up some history on it and add that into the video. But I gotta catch up. Marty's already way up ahead, like usual. What you looking at?
The old jail.
That's where you belong.
That's the old jail. Let's take a look inside.
You're not going to shut me in there, are you?
Okay.
So this is a totally unexpected find. This is actually the old jail. And if you look inside, you can see where the inmates did their business. Because look, that's the privy. And then the bed that they would have laid on. From the size of this thing, it looks like you could have held like 2 prisoners or maybe several in one cell, but there's only 2 separate cells in here. Marty coming out of his natural habitat. Be careful, you might get too used to that. We found out from talking with one of the locals that at one time this was the town's funeral parlor. We also confirmed that this was indeed a church at one time, and that other building that we were puzzling over, you know, the one that had the minerals or the gemstones, crystals pasted to the front of it, that was, surprise, surprise, an old rock shop. And actually, the owner of this old rock shop is the grandfather to one of the people who owns the rock shop that's on the outskirts of town. Before we go any further, I want to give a quick shout out to Glenn Judd for tipping our trip jar, not once, but twice. Thank you, Glenn. We appreciate all your support in helping us get out and do these adventures. Now, this building caught my eye. On top, you can see it says McConnell 1939, and on the shorter building, McConnell 1947. Now, I tried doing a Google search of the history real quick, and all I could come up with is basically that McConnell, or Captain McConnell as he was well known, had some major influence here in Cave in Rock, Elizabethtown, and Rosie Clare, I think was the other town that came up. He was a riverboat captain. He ran the mail using his boat. He had several riverboats actually. And so I'm assuming that this building has some significance with him. I just don't know what. And looking through the bars across the doorway, we can see that unfortunately this building has seen better days. Thought we'd take a quick walk around so you could see the back from that perspective. From this view, it's obvious now what happened. There was a fire. Something else you might find fascinating about Cave in Rock is there's a ferry that runs across the river. Here we can see it docking right now. For those of you interested to know, the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, in conjunction with the Illinois DOT, provides free ferry service across the river here between the hours of 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., 7 days a week. Now I wanted to point out we are here in the off-season, so any of the businesses that would normally be open during tourist season are obviously now closed. Places like Rose's Country Kitchen may be open during tourist season. I don't know, maybe not. Hard to say. Well, you're staring pretty intently, Marty. What you looking at?
I was wondering what that place was.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we can tell what that place was. What am I going to do with him? Something else I've noticed about the town is that the residents here must be very patriotic, because pretty much everywhere you look there are flags. Today it's a little bit windy, so you can see them flapping in the breeze. This place has 4 of them just by itself. It's a quaint little town. I don't know how we missed it the last time we were down in southern Illinois. And if it weren't for all the traffic driving through because of the ferry, I'd say this is a really quiet little town. My kind of place, because if you haven't figured out by now, sightseers, I like towns that are small, quiet, being out in the great outdoors where it's quiet. So this would be right up my alley if I were looking for a new place to live. And this here with its large front porch would likely be the type of house I would gravitate towards if moving here. The town is a little bit more progressive than I thought. I thought maybe being more conservative, or at least that's the impression I have, is that this town is a little bit more conservative. I didn't think they'd have a female or woman pastor, but I guess I was just proven wrong. Anyways, I think I've shown you about all there is to see here in the downtown, and I had alluded to in the beginning that there was some interesting lore, some legend about Cave in Rock that I wanted to share with you. Plus, there is substantiated history to go along with it that I know you're going to love, so let's get into that now. So if you didn't know, there is a real cave in a rock here at Cave in Rock, which is how the town got its name. And this, by the way, if you didn't know, is the Ohio River behind me. And back long before there were lawmen here to keep people safe, This area was the perfect place for miscreants, bandits, and thieves to hide out among the rocks. Now, legend has it that Jesse James and his band hung out here hiding from the law at some point. And while that can't be confirmed, there are other stories of other, maybe worse individuals who did spend time here. It's been confirmed that they did hide out here. Well, sort of. One of the most famous criminals said to spend time here, Samuel Mason, is the only one that can be verified by any sort of historical records. It is believed that around 1797, Mason and his gang used the cave for about 6 months as their headquarters. According to legend, Mason ran a tavern out of the cavern as a ruse to rob unsuspecting travelers. Historical records that at least back up the claim that Mason and his men were here include old trial transcripts from when Mason's men were captured. Ironically, Mason himself never went to trial. He was shot and died from an escape tent. A gone wrong. Just think, we're standing on ground where some pretty badass major criminals hung out. And if I may add, they weren't hanging out here just for the fun of it. They were here because this was the perfect hiding place, especially for those river pirates who were waiting for other ships and boats to come along on the Ohio River just so they could rob them and plunder and set fire to the ships. How crazy is that? Now, while it's likely most of these near-forgotten tales of treachery and deceit are just that, stories meant to set the imagination afire, one thing's certain: usually you can find a grain of truth hidden somewhere, but only if you dig deep enough.